else want to say hello? Small businesses?
Can you hear me? Elise Graves.
Yes, hello.
Hello, I'm Elise Graves. I'm an inventor, and I'm looking for manufacturing in Boston to help me bring my product to the marketplace. It's I've invented a bracket. It's aluminum and it comes in two parts. And
Yeah,
yeah, so
welcome, Tom. Great. Well, Lisa, I think Mass MEP, the first presenter, will be able to help you with that. Um, there's representatives all across the state.
that sounds great.
Dongshen, welcome. Anybody else want to say hello?
Hi.
Introduce yourself. And as a reminder, please mute and unmute yourself. Sometimes we forget, and then we have Oprah in the background, or some sort of game show. You know how it works.
Sorry,
Thanks.
I will mute it.
No. If you want to say hello, anybody want to introduce themselves while we wait a couple more minutes?
Henry Hall, Mass MEP.
Dongshen Li from Advanced Manufacturing LLC.
Nice. What do you do, Dongshen? What type of business?
We focus on additive manufacturing. So we have manufacturing service and consulting service for metallic, focusing on metallic additive manufacturing. And
Welcome,
also
Joseph.
Go ahead.
Okay, you're based in Massachusetts, right?
Well, I'm based in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
We do have office in Massachusetts, and we work with UMass Amherst too. Yeah.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Anybody else want to say hello?
I'm gonna turn off my camera.
Joe here from SRC Medical. How you doing, guys, gals?
Hey, Joe.
Morning.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for joining us, Joe. What kind of business is that?
We do custom injection molding in Hanover, Mass. So Mark knows us very well.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to say hello?
Hi, my name is Bill Taub. I'm with
This is more for you
1854
than me.
Cycling Company.
Just manufacturing. I
Can
ain't
you
trying to
hear me?
manufacture nothing.
Welcome.
I'm not on the
You
Zoom
want me to
call.
shut
I didn't get.
Okay.
All right,
Hello?
people are rolling in. Yes, sir. What was the question?
My name is Bill Taub. I am the co-founder of the 1854 Cycling Company, and we are building a high-tech e-bike system for police officers and first responders who are on e-bikes, and there's nothing like it in the world.
That sounds amazing.
Bill, thank you for jumping on this call this morning. Bill was just invited to join this call about 1 hour ago.
SBA.
Thank you so
See
very
that?
much.
Nice. It's a privilege, sir.
Thank you, Nadine.
Anybody else want to say hello before we begin?
I'll say hello.
Okay.
My name is Heather Spinney Laidlaw. I work for a company called Anchor Seal Inc. We're based in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And we manufacture custom formulated epoxies, silicones, encapsulants, things like that, urethanes. And so it's a pleasure to be here this morning with all of you.
Thanks. Any last ones? We have about 67 people here. All right, I just want to remind everybody to control their mute. I'm gonna mute folks, but if you have a question, press the hand icon in the app or unmute yourself, and we'll try and get your questions answered. This program is an hour and a half. We're in here for the long haul, so get your coffee ready, and at any point, just and your water. Yes, Joseph. Feel free to chime in or raise your hand. We will have Q&A after, but Nadine will. I think as Nadine and Diane, you want to start us off now?
Yep, happy to. Apologize, my team's crashed there for a moment, but I am back. Welcome. It is top of the hour at 10 a.m. in Boston. It's a perfect day to be inside, perfect day to be not be traffic, and learning about manufacturing. Knows the idea of the day in Boston.
Diane,
so welcome.
Yes.
Breaking up a little. The connection's kind of, but go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Nope. You know what? I'm going to reboot. Nadine, over to you, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, everybody. Norman, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining your Massachusetts SBA office this morning. Thank you to all of our speakers and participants. Want to let you all know that the SBA does not endorse the organizations that sponsored here this morning, and we do not endorse any views that they may express or products that they may offer. That all programs and services are extended to the public on a non-discriminatory basis. We are providing to you an informational webinar on resources for manufacturers this morning and for small businesses. We have a panel of government and industry that includes public and private stakeholders. This morning, we are presenting a high-level overview of available resources. This webinar is intended to follow up with each of these speakers in a series to provide more detailed information for you. SBA Massachusetts hope you will enjoy and learn from this session. We hope you will join us for the continuing sessions. Now, I would like to introduce you to Robert H. Nelson, the State District Director for your Massachusetts SBA. Bob?
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Nadine and Norman, for organizing this morning's event, and certainly want to thank all of our speakers this morning. We have a great, robust program for all of you today to talk about the SBA programs and services and resources for manufacturers. But October is Manufacturing Month, and today's event is intended to highlight the importance of the industry segment, which is so vitally important in the Massachusetts economy. I'm definitely a data geek, but stats show that historically over 10% of the Commonwealth's economy is tied to manufacturing, and over 250,000 work in the manufacturing sector here in the state. So I know that you're in for a great program, a lot of information and a lot of speakers to help you in your business to start, grow, expand, and recover. But I just want to talk just a little bit about our recovery programs and what we did, because it really is historic. And I'm just going to talk about the Massachusetts numbers. So in Massachusetts on PPP alone, we did 118,000 loans for $14 billion. For EIDL loans, we did just about 60,000 for $3.49 billion. EIDL advances, another 100,000 for $311 million. When you put it all together, it's about 275,000 approvals for $18 billion. And this is in a matter of just a few short months with the help of our lending partners, our community partners, our research partners, everyone coming together to try to help to get capital into the hands of small businesses so that they could recover this disaster. One of the, I'm only going to talk about two programs very quickly before I turn it over to Wendell Davis. But the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, it's a very different program than the PPP program. For economic injury loans, you apply at sba.gov/disaster. I want you to know that you can still apply for economic injury loans. The deadline to apply is 12/21 of this year. When you think back in March or April or May, you might have not realized the full extent of the economic injury that was impacting your business. And you didn't apply. So what I want you to know is that you can still apply now. The economic injury loans, we're doing loans up to $150,000, low interest rates, 30-year terms, a 12-month automatic deferment from the start, no real property collateral, and it's to provide working capital to you so that you could meet obligations that you otherwise would have been able to meet had the disaster not occurred. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that program is still available while Congress is working on negotiating the next stimulus, but economic injury loans is still currently available. So if you have not applied, get in there and apply now. Everything is subject to appropriations, but that program is available. The other program that I just wanted to highlight is the SBA's 504 program, which is used to buy owner-occupied commercial real estate, a perfect tool for our manufacturing small businesses out there. We had a record debenture sale last month with well over $1 billion in debenture sales. That's how the funds are raised to fund the program. But you're talking about 25-year fixed rate money at 2.75%. It's historic. So the opportunities are there. So with the SBA 504 program, one of the other beauties, in addition to the long-term fixed rate, small business typically only has to come up with 10% equity. Again, it's just another wonderful program that the SBA has in its toolbox to help not only manufacturers, but small businesses to get into owner-occupied commercial real estate. So that's enough for me. I'm so happy that we have Wendell Davis and we were able to get this on his calendar and for him to join us. So Wendell Davis is the regional administrator for the SBA for New England. He's my boss. It's been my honor to be working for him since he was appointed to his position by the president on January 8th in 2018. But he has a new role that he's now SBA's Field Operations Chair for the Manufacturing Supply Chain Resiliency and Recovery Task Force. When you look at some of the things that that Wendell has been involved in over the past number of months, numerous engagements supporting the many manufacturing-focused small businesses critical to the success in New England, several roundtables at the White House down in DC, but Wendell also negotiated an alliance between the SBA and a Fortune company focused on strengthening original equipment manufacturer supply chains and improving opportunities for small businesses. So Wendell, again, I'm so honored that we were able to get this on your calendar and looking forward to your remarks and learning more about your new role as the director of the task force. So Wendell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for your team, Norm and Nadine, for putting on this event. These are such important conversations. You know, I have one eye on the business channel, you know, every morning, and one on this computer, and just a couple of noteworthy notes of news just this morning. There was a Wall Street beat, durable goods orders in October beat Wall Street expectations. Business CapEx spending beat Wall Street estimates. That's good news for folks on this program. That's good news for manufacturers across our nation. I know the Richmond Fed manufacturing survey just came out yesterday, and it reached the highest level it's ever been at. The ISM just reported its October PMI index, and for the fifth straight months, it's in growth territory at 55.4. Anything over 50 kind of indicates growth. With all that being said, you know, we fully appreciate and we fully understand that there's a whole lot of work we got to do. But I can tell you, and I can assure everyone that, you know, the leadership is in place. This administration is hyper focused on manufacturing and has been for the last 3.5 years. You know, Bob, you referred to Massachusetts and the 16+ billion that has hit the you know, balance sheets of businesses across Massachusetts. When you look at it nationwide, that's over $550 billion has hit the balance sheets of small businesses across our nation. And that happened over the course of 12 to 16 weeks. It didn't take a year to roll out that program. It was done in weeks. It was quick, it was robust, and it was impactful. And again, we're not out of the woods. A lot of folks, the hope was, if we got from point A to point B, being an 8-week window, we would be good and we'd be off to the races, but that's not the case. So it's important that we have these discussions to make sure that manufacturers are aware of the many different programs that are out there if they need them. A couple of different things too, Bob, you mentioned the EIDL and PPP. I know, some of the discussions down in DC surround some reshoring in the CARES Act, whatever round we're on. It seems like we're on round 5 or 6, but I think we might be on round 3. But there are some discussions about having monies available for reshoring efforts. That's been a focus of this administration for the last 3.5 years, and hopefully it makes its way into the final bill. We were all hopeful that we would see PP3, again, whatever number we're on, before the election. But I think the consensus is, whether it's before the election or after the election, it's going to happen. We have over $128 billion still available in PPP. We just don't have the authority or the authorization to spend it, and we need Congress's approval to do that. We also, as Bob mentioned in our EIDL program, we still have $160 billion, and these numbers are staggering. That's a B. As a side note, when I hear $550 billion nationwide in the PPP program, on the one hand, it's incredibly gratifying to be part of a solution and to be there to help small businesses. But on the other hand, it's a double-edged sword. That number represents a whole heck of a lot of hurt and a whole heck of a lot of struggle for small businesses that are out there, including manufacturers. Along the PPP lines, when you break down the data, manufacturing was the number 4 recipient nationwide of PPP loans, representing, I think, just over $55 billion. And, in Massachusetts, when we broke down the data too, it looked like metal. I wrote down here the fabricated metal products, NAICS code 332, was the number 1 recipient in Massachusetts, and food manufacturing was actually number 2. So when you break down that data, the impact that COVID is having, but also, this administration's response to COVID has been robust, and we're meeting and we're reaching all kinds of manufacturers and small businesses. Along the lines of EIDL, though, because I think EIDL is a critically important tool for manufacturers. And right now we've seen, and I've been traveling, Bob, and I thank you for the invitation to be on this call. I was on a virtual call with Wisconsin manufacturers yesterday. I was in Pennsylvania on Monday visiting with manufacturers. I was in New York, on upstate New York, visiting with manufacturers on Friday, and I was in New Hampshire for, I think, 2 days last week. And I continue to travel, all across the country, speaking with manufacturers. And one thing I'm hearing is that our EIDL loan, that $150,000 just doesn't hit the mark for most manufacturers. So getting that input back from manufacturers, I'm going directly to headquarters at the SBA saying, hey, do whatever you can to lift that number. And there have been congressional proposals to move that to $2 million, which I think would hit the mark much more so for manufacturers, and make that EIDL loan program, which is a great program. It's a long-term, 30-year, low interest fixed rate note. Could be critically important for manufacturers. So we're pushing hard to make that available, up to $2 million. So we hope that's the case. We all wait to see what Congress ultimately approves, but just want to put that on everybody's radar, that even post this call, follow the SBA, follow, the different emails. Feel free to reach out to Bob and his staff, because we can keep you posted and abreast of all of the different changes that are constantly occurring. One thing I do want to, and I'll close with 2 other programs that I want to make sure folks are aware of. And they're not SBA programs, but, they are manufacturing related. So I think it's important that folks are aware of the programs. One is around the Defense Production Act. So the DFC, the Development Finance Corporation, has been charged with administrating loans in the Defense Production Act. And there's a lot of incredible companies and manufacturers in Massachusetts that are in those critical sectors that are important to our country. And the Defense Production Act provides loans, again, long-term loans for anybody that is looking to expand, reshore things that are produced in other countries that we should be producing and manufacturing in the United States. And the most obvious examples are anything COVID related, obviously vaccines, ventilators, anything PPE related, but that's not the only thing. Those are the easy ones to identify. We've had, just by way of example, there are semiconductor companies that have applied for DFC, DPA funding. We had a critical communications company out of Connecticut apply for funding. And those folks that that are not PPE related, I think the DFC folks, other manufacturers, because there's so many critical needs that our country has. And those things should be produced in our country. So if that is something that you're in a critical area, we're happy to do one-on-one phone calls with folks, and you can reach out to me again, Emily. I know Emily in my office is on this call. Emily, if you could put the information relating to the Defense Production Act and the DFC and the executive order, I think came down about 2.5 months ago on that. That is a loan program where there's a soft 80%, 20% requirement. So the DFC will put up 80% of the money, and they're looking for a 20%. Again, that's not they can be flexible on that. They're looking at 20% from bank funding or equity funding or other type funding. With that being said, though, the DFC can under the DPA can actually take an equity position, so they can be an actual investor in any production expansion or anything that you're thinking about along those lines that fits their program. So again, Emily's going to put some more information on that in the chat room. Emily, if you could put the link to, we have a national call today at 4 o'clock. If you could put that link in there, Emily, that call, we're going to have somebody from the Development Finance Corporation on that call speaking directly about the Defense Production Act program. And if you want more information, you can tune into that 4 o'clock call to find out more, or you can just reach out to me directly. We're doing one-on-one calls with folks with the DFC to see if if your project may fit their program. The second program that I wanted to mention too is the Treasuries program, which is the Main Street USA program, and that is gap funding. That if you're facing as a manufacturer a liquidity crunch, Main Street USA program may be a good program for you. It's a 5-year, again, gap funding, 5-year note, no payments first year, no payments on interest or principal in that first year. It's deferred. In the second year, it's interest only. It's part of that creating a runway so manufacturers can get from point A to point B, being next year, where there's better visibility as to their business. And if that is something that you're in need, I want to make sure that manufacturers are aware of that there's the gap funding that is out there. And if you need more information on that, you can reach out to me directly. I think, Emily, if you could put the information relating to the Main Street USA program. It's 3 different facilities that are available. Originally, it was $1 million facility up through, I think, $500 million, but they've lowered that to $250,000 to reach more and more smaller manufacturers that you're in need. There has to be a COVID-related impact to your business as part of that the analysis they undergo. But again, if you're a manufacturer and this is a program that you may need, we're here to let you know more about that and see if it's a fit. Along those lines, also at 4 o'clock, we also have Adam Larrick, who is a counselor to Secretary Mnuchin, on our call at 4 o'clock. And the Boston Fed actually is going to be on the call, and they're going to go over in detail that Treasury program and the 3 lending facilities that are available. So if your company may be of interest to your company, jump on that 4 o'clock call, or if you can't jump on that call, reach out to me directly. We'll definitely get you in the right hands and make sure those resources are available to you. So with that being said, Bob, I'll turn it back over to you guys. I know the SBA, the ME, I know the Mass MEP, Mark, I see Mark on the program. There's some really great speakers, and I want to get out of their way so I can listen to the folks who are going to be on this call. Thanks, everybody, let me thank all of the manufacturers on the call, too, because I often say that, manufacturers just need a fighting chance. And if you give them a fighting chance, they're going to find a way to be successful. And I think over the last 3 years, the good news, regardless of what happens next week, is that manufacturers now, everybody's talking about manufacturers. Everybody's talking about how important it is to have manufacturing back in the United States. And not just for manufacturers. I think it's critically important to the fabric of our society to have manufacturers, to have those jobs in and part of our economy and growing in our economy. And over the last 25 years, we lost 5 million manufacturing jobs, over 70,000 plants. And that trend has reversed finally, and we need to keep that going. So with that being said, folks, thanks again, Bob. Thanks, Nadine. Thanks, Norm. I look forward to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Wendell Davis, thank you, Chair of the Manufacturing Supply Chain Task Force. We really appreciate you and thank you for all that you are doing. Next, we are going to hear from John Killam, President of Massachusetts Manufacturing Extension Partnership. John?
I fixed it. I was muted. Thank you, Nadine. And thank you for being a part of this, this Zoom call today. Manufacturing, as Wendell just said, has never been in a better place. Folks are really starting to understand what manufacturing means, not only for jobs, good paying jobs, but to the economy of our country. These manufacturing jobs generate other indirect results that also grow our economy. Other supply chains, service industries to help these people in these manufacturing positions. But then again, manufacturing's been a challenge for the last 9 months, right? Fortunately, Mass MEP has been in a position where we're looking forward. We're always building an organization to meet the requirements of our customers. And who are our customers? Our customers are manufacturing companies. And what we do for them is pretty much provide consulting and training services to help these companies improve bottom line impacts and as well as grow their top line results. And we do this through programming, we do this through training, we do this through consulting. Much of this work is done in line with the state of Massachusetts in terms of what the state is trying to accomplish. If we can align our mission with the state's mission to grow advanced manufacturing, then 1 and 1 is equaling 3. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the Mass MEP has been around since, I believe, the MEP system's been around a little more than 25 years. It's a national program managed by the feds through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the measurement and calibration people, right? So everything we do is about how do we improve a manufacturer and how do we improve a manufacturing community so that the companies are adding more jobs, they're doing it more safely, they're improving their quality, reducing their cost, and most importantly, they're delivering product on time. And so these types of services are basic in terms of what a manufacturer needs to do. And so for those manufacturers, we help give them a lift, but then we also take them on the next step of the journey, and that's to grow their business. And by growing their business, what I mean is leveraging the rich resources we have here in Massachusetts around innovation technologies. The Innovation Institutes are being supported here in Massachusetts, at least 6 of them. Robotics, photonics, flexible fibers and fabric, lightweight. It's just in terms of to help our manufacturers accomplish. So as part of the MEP network, we have 50 other centers that we communicate with. We all work independently in our own states, but these other states provide knowledge, and we provide knowledge to them. So if a manufacturer or an individual is looking for something that's manufacturing centric. Maybe it's a process, a material, or an idea, or a source that could provide something. We can gather and bring our network together and query the network to find the answers to these questions. So from a state level, we're very focused on helping our manufacturers be successful. From the national level, we're supporting the national program and helping manufacturers in total improve in the United States. The economic driver portion of what we do, even though we're working with manufacturers and we're helping with real shop line, product line problems on the shop floor, our guys are getting down and dirty and really making change. And that's very important, because if we just consult and we don't help companies implement, then we fear that we won't get the economic improvements. And so for that, we stay with our manufacturers for typically 2 years, and then we follow up with our manufacturers to do an independent third-party survey of our services and the impacts that the companies received. And so we've built an organization that is still learning about what we can do better to help our manufacturers, what we can do better to help our ecosystem, what we can do better to help promote manufacturing in Massachusetts. Next slide, Norman. Over the last, I'll say actively, over the last 4 or 5 years, through the direction of Secretary Keneally, Housing and Economic Development, there was a Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative organization pulled together. And this organization consisted of people from academia, government, from industry, from nonprofits. And the goal was to bring together these resources that could help guide the future of manufacturing in terms of training, the technologies that we want to enter into, and the kind of manufacturing businesses we want to be. And so this organization had been moving along for a couple of years, gaining some traction, really starting to put some good work in place. Well, COVID-19 came along. And some of you may have heard about all the activity of companies pivoting. Well, when this all happened, the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative Group, that is supervised, if you will, under the Manufacturing Technology Center, we all got together to support the state's drive to first find manufacturers here in Massachusetts that could pivot their operations and produce personal protective equipment quickly. And so together, using people from UMass Lowell, MIT, Lincoln Labs, the administration, legislators, MEP, of course, the Mass Tech Collaborative, we gathered information about who had the potential of pivoting to do certain PPE, and our state was amazing. We have produced, there are no other states that can match the number of companies that pivoted, the number of units that were produced, and now ongoing efforts to continue this, what is called the MERD effort. So, through the slide you're looking at now, the Mass Center for Advanced Manufacturing, this is a subgroup, if you will, under the Mass Tech Collaborative. And this is really the AMC, the Advanced Manufacturing Group. And this group is going to make sure that the state stays on track for our manufacturers, addressing the pipeline. How do we promote people into the manufacturing careers? Secondly, how do we educate them? What kind of education do they need? Is it a vocational school? Does it come out of a comprehensive school? This will be further defined. Then the focus will be on advanced manufacturing. And where we are going as a state is to leverage our flexibility, how nimble we are, and the varying types of manufacturing services, products, systems that we use. All that variety we're bringing together, and we're going to deploy with the Mass Tech Collaborative the continuation of things like the M2I2 program. M2I2 program is funding that is to manufacturing companies that want to work on projects for the innovation institutes. Robotics, right, we go on, photonics, flexible fibers, lightweight materials. There are many, many opportunities. And so this program is a tremendous resource to capitalize a company so that they can start their pilot runs and prove that they can make production runs of a product. We've enlisted people from MIT and Harvard. We're doing testing in UMass Lowell as well as Harvard. The state's bought equipment so that manufacturers don't need to go get FDA testing. They can come right to the state and get supported in that way. So the state will be funneling a lot of what they're trying to accomplish through the Mass Center for Advanced Manufacturing. Next slide, please. If you go to the webpage that we give you, the MassGov webpage for manufacturing, you're going to see a number of resources that are available in there. You'll see your grant opportunities. There are many, many grant opportunities. Not as many for capital, but many for training, and many for collaborating with others. But many of these grant opportunities allow you to build a system that can be later deployed for profit or for just really good use. So one of the benefits that we're continuing is what the state calls MERT, the Massachusetts Emergency Response Team. And this is where Mass MEP was leveraged to connect the state to companies that were only willing but capable of pivoting their operations. What that noise. And so what we were able to accomplish with the state and probably some of you folks in the room right now was we brought together over 500 companies that were ready to pivot, Massachusetts companies. In a matter of weeks, we were producing PPE by pivoting companies that were, say, making textile products. But we also had opportunities where somebody decided they were going to open a factory that had been shut down for years and use old equipment that was used to make automotive upholstery, and now they're making gowns. And so between the state and the Mass MEP and other players, this company was up to speed in a matter of weeks using equipment they've never used before, train people that never ran this equipment before, and they're producing gowns. This is not typical in in the United States. It doesn't exist. And so for our manufacturers, not only has the light shine on them much greater now, but I think we're coming to the state and the peripherals like us have really been able to drive the agenda to where we need to be. Next slide, please. This is just part of this page, and if you can read it, what you see here is the Massachusetts Manufacturing Resource page. This is housed on the Mass Tech Collaborative website. There is a web page to go to, but in this page you get business consulting, and there are many services that are covered in here. Help with energy, financing, So SBA or Mass Growth Capital, people like that would be under that. Find sites, incentives, supply chain, and certainly workforce. And so these areas, when you go to this webpage, you will see that each one of these areas has a plan. It's scoped out as to what the action is. If there's any money, it will explain what the money's for and the rules to spend it. But as you can see just in the top here, Commonwealth Corp, they do an amazing job providing grants to do training. Short-term grants that take no time at all to get submitted, or bigger grants, long-term grants that may take a couple of months to submit. Amazing group. They're creating new products all the time. They have the funds. They want you to use the money, and they want you to train and develop your people. But as you work down through this page, you get on the website, you will see many, many more resources that we're providing manufacturers, from pipeline to education to scaling to starting a new enterprise, right through to the people side, and addressing the people and concerns with people and how to treat people, using our great resources like the Associated Industries of Massachusetts, and then taking people to new heights where they go to commercialization and produce products and hire people and build a sustaining business here in Massachusetts. We have it all. We have it all here. We are not the most expensive state to do business in. We're probably one of the higher ones, but we're not the most. If you look at the benefits and the services that are provided and you take advantage of them, then I think you'll see the value. Right now, there's a $4,500 tax credit. You put one of your people into an apprenticeship, certified apprenticeship type program, and these aren't 4-year programs. Many of them are much shorter in time. You get reimbursed for that. $4,500 is a reimbursement. So the state is doing what we can to provide the funding. Mass MEP and other organizations like us are determining what you want to learn, what you want to know, what you need help with, and we do that through conversation. My contact information is on the last slide. You're free to reach out to me or any MEP people that are on the phone right now. I know Lisa Boulier announced herself, and I saw Henry Hall on the call, but there are plenty of people here that you can reach out to. We cover the whole state. Our goal is to help you succeed as a manufacturer and grow this Massachusetts economy. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
John, thank you so very much for your presentation. I heard you mention pivot at least 4 times in your presentation, and I was sitting here thinking that years ago I took some ballroom dance lessons, and I remember that we needed to pivot. And I can't remember what that step looked like, but it's obviously going in a different direction.
You nailed it.
And there's some people who are doing pivot as a drinking game.
and Nate, you picked up on that. And I'm going to tell you why I believe Massachusetts was so great at this, because we're not built with big OEMs who are very rigid in their operations. They don't turn on a dime. We have a lot of small organizations with a lot of really bright engineers and bright technicians who, just because they do auto body and make plastic, does that mean they? Oh yeah, oh yeah. People were so innovative and so willing to help, and we had such diversity across our state in terms of what we make that. Millions and millions of pieces of PPE, and it's not going to stop. The state will continue to grow manufacturers to produce PPE.
Hi, this is Norma. We have a question from Kim. Kim, are you there?
It's not a question. I'm Kim Ingalls from Mass MEP. I also wanted to provide our website too. So Mass MEP has a great website that has a lot of resources as well, and it also has all of our contact information for some of our products. and all of that. So it's massmep.org, and it's pretty simple. So feel free to jump on that, and if there's anything else we can help you with, don't hesitate to let us know and call.
Thank you. I just want to remind all the presenters that we're at 10:45. We want to keep it moving. Mark Manuel's up next. Nadine, you want to intro Mark Manuel? Let's keep it moving.
Thank you, Norman. Thank you, Mass MEP, for your presentation and all the participants with Mass MEP. We're going to now hear from Mark Manuel, who is founder of Industrial Marketing and a certified ThomasNet registered partner. Mark is going to talk to us this morning about the ThomasNet registry. I met Mark a little bit more than a year ago when he was here with one of our wanted to be HubZone certified SBA participants. And later we learned that Mark is providing services for our 8A business development participants. And that is government contracting, which I oversee here in Massachusetts. And you're going to hear so much more about government contracting. But for now, I want to introduce you to Mark Manuel. Mark?
Mark, are you there? Unmute. You have 10 minutes.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. There I am. Sorry. Thanks, Norm. You know, I want to thank you, Bob Nelson, Nadine, Norm, Wendell, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful team presentation. You know, I'm a guy that started getting into marketing manufacturing about 8 years ago. And as I walked through companies, manufacturing plants, and saw the small folks that were working so hard, they would never, I would mention the Mass MEP, or I'd mention an 8A program or the HubZone, and people would say, Mark, I'm just too busy running my business. So over the last 8 years, I've probably attended 300 to 400 in-person events. And I started to become sort of that database to help my clients be successful. And I want to say, Bob, I remember 7, 8 years ago for the first time meeting you when I was on the board at SBAIN, and the kind of work you were doing. I said, wow, we are so lucky in Massachusetts to have these kind of folks. So what I want you to know is that I love manufacturing, and you know, my grandmother worked in a jewelry factory in Rhode Island, and I look at how manufacturing helps so many families, you know, get ahead. So really over the last 2 generations. But in the next 15 minutes, what I want to do is I want to show you why people use ThomasNet. And I'm also going to show you how you can use ThomasNet to make more money in your own business. I'll make available these slides at the end of this. But you know, I come to this place 8 years ago, not knowing a thing about manufacturing, and that's why I started walking around. But I own my own business, and I know if I make it easy for people to do business with me, they will. A concept known as friction. And I remember back, gosh, in 1997, I was at a seminar where Jeff Bezos was talking about, he wanted to make the online shopping experience frictionless. And like, I didn't know, I'd never bought anything online. I was still struggling with dial-up. But, you know, he patented at Amazon the one-click purchase. And, you know, today they own 50% of the e-commerce, you know, business in the world because they make it easy to do business. And Thomas gets this. And I want to talk about audience and how we've made it very simple for people to find a new supplier. And when you understand that, I think you'll start to embrace. And you know what I'm hoping you'll do today is check out your own free listing on ThomasNet. If you need someone to update it, please reach out to me via the email. I'm happy to do that, and happy to show you, you know, how to use that. You're going to learn how to do that in the next about 13 minutes. Would you go next slide, Norm? Now, in this next slide, what you're going to see is you know, really the 3 dominant ways that people, you know, where folks go to source for industrial clients. Now, clearly, Google is the largest search engine in the world, and it's the big kahuna. And what was interesting to me, I met the guys that started Google in 1999. I was vice president of an internet service company in Lowell called at the Wang Towers called Zipling, and I'm a Google guy. But I didn't know anything about manufacturing. So when I think about the audience that uses Google and when they use it, they may be doing some research. It may be I use Google because that's what I use. So it's a really interesting audience. It's everybody, including my wife, and it's something that we all know. It's very important that we participate in it. And then when you look at Bing, a lot of people I talk to say, "Oh, Mark, nobody uses Bing." But what I've discovered over the last 8 years is that a lot of military and government computer systems still use old Microsoft software as part of their security. They haven't updated. So they have Bing on their desktop. And some of my clients have got their largest customers, their largest contracts through that. So it's all about the audience. And, you know, and ThomasNet is a really interesting niche within a niche. I'll show you after my slide deck how I used to sell ThomasNet. But, you know, I used to tell people, hey, ThomasNet has 1 million listings on Google, so you should buy an ad on ThomasNet because you're going to find it. But today, over 1 million engineers and supply chain professionals choose to go to ThomasNet first and bypass the search engines. And I'm going to show you why. It's because we make it very easy to do their job. Next slide, please, Norm. You know, when you talk about the Thomas audience, you know, every second of every day, there's an engineer downloading one of the 10 million 2D and 3D and BIM CAD models on ThomasNet. And people would say to me, why would you use ThomasNet? Well, I can tell you the big companies like Boeing use SolidWorks as a CAD software, and my small little woman-owned machine shop in Hudson, Massachusetts doesn't have that same software. So the engineer at Boeing will actually go to Thomas, download a step file, and they can now see if they can work with that company. Every 2 seconds, there are buyers on ThomasNet. Many folks have to see the ISO 9000 certification, AS 9100. I want to validate that, in fact, you're a HubZone or an 8A company. And so we're capturing a lot of data. And the difference here is that it's a free platform. But if you want to download a CAD model, if you want to see the certificate, you have to register. So just like Amazon knows what I'm thinking about buying, ThomasNet has tremendous insights. We know where the market is. We can see trends far before anyone else. Next slide, please. And you know, when you look at our audience, and I couldn't have told you this, you know, 8 years ago, but we had a new CEO, Tony Uphoff, that joined the company 5 years ago. And Tony is a data guy. And he said, the only way we can prove value if we actually know who's using our platform. So as you can see here, you know, 75% of the users of ThomasNet are most of the folks on this call, small, medium-sized companies. But 93% of the Fortune 1000 actually use our site. And I've had, over the course of the last 8 years, 15 or so clients that have secured $1 million contracts from people that are here looking for a supplier. Next slide, please, Norm. And, you know, when you take a look at, you know, who uses ThomasNet, what's interesting to me is the companies that are highlighted on the right. On an average month, we have 322 people, engineers, supply chain people, that are on ThomasNet looking for a new supplier from every kind of industry. So it's really funny, my experience walking around 7-8 years ago, when I'd walk into a company, they would say, Mark, no one uses the old green books anymore. Everyone uses Google. And that's what they think. I couldn't prove them wrong. But now I encourage everyone on this call to make sure that you've updated your listings, and I've got some other things to help you that are free. But this is the most valuable place. If I am a manufacturer, and with my experience, and again, I'm an independent, I don't get commission from ThomasNet unless my clients make money. That's my passion. The next slide, Norm, thank you. And again, just, you know, when you take a look at the breakdown by millennials, you know, most of our users are those young millennials. And back in 2019, it was the first time in history that in manufacturing, there were many baby boomers like me as millennials. And now there are more millennials that are in charge. And, you know, some people go to trade shows because that's what they know. I love trade shows. I've been to every manufacturing trade show within 200 miles of here over the last 7-8 years, and until I couldn't because of the pandemic. But I've been telling my clients for years, listen, the millennials don't go to trade shows. They're using the internet. And the pandemic hit, and on March 1st, ThomasNet had about 45,000 unique user sessions every single day. On April 1st, when everything was shut down, we had over 86,000 unique user sessions. So I don't think I have to tell anybody that the world is online, and this is a really interesting niche audience that I believe can really help you. Go ahead, Norm. And unlike Amazon, where it's sort of like point, click, and buy, I just want to remind everyone that what's really critical is to understand that this is the industrial buying process. You know, we know that engineers, small, mid-sized companies, they all go through this process. And if you start where the purchase button is, when I'm putting together that short list, hey, I have to have 5 woman-owned AS9100 CNC machine shops in Massachusetts. A search engine just doesn't cut it. But with Thomasnet, you can accomplish that in about 30 seconds. And that's why so many of the supply chain people making those decisions, they're not just, you know, surfing Google, looking around for, you know, hey, isn't that a pretty website? You know, some of the interns that I've met, I live about a mile from Raytheon, and I know a lot of the supply chain buyers there. And you know, a lot of times they have no idea what the actual product they're buying. Their job is just to find 5 companies that can do this. Then the engineers get involved. But I always share this process because it is a very technical sale. It's a long sales cycle, finite market. It's a very different process. Next up, next slide, Tim. Thank you. And I love to share this this slide because everyone talks about big data. Every single day on Thomasnet.com, on our platform, there are over 4 trillion data points that we're capturing. We have insights, and that's why we saw trends. I remember last year, our CEO does a video every Monday called the Thomas Index, and we had noticed, I guess for three months prior, there was an unusual activity for people sourcing machinery to make plastic straws. And so we talked about this phenomenon. We said, we don't know what's going on. And that Friday, Starbucks announced they were out of the plastic straw business. And I remember the Wall Street Journal interviewing Tony saying, you know, how'd you guys know it was Starbucks? And he said, we didn't know who it was. We just knew that, you know, you don't go to Thomasnet because you're looking for a joke or you know, you're looking for a puppy. You're there because you're looking for a new supplier. So I think that's my last slide, but I'd like to just do a live demonstration. Oh, these are resources that you can go through. They're 2 to 3 minutes, and this is going to show you how to use Thomasnet. They're really well done. So in terms of if you have a contract from a company and you're looking for a woman-owned, you know, veteran-owned company that can do this within Massachusetts, it's very easy to find that, you know, on Thomasnet. You can learn here. And again, here's my contact information, and I'm happy to help anybody use the platform, you know, after this. So,
all right.
Do I have the control, Norm?
No. Mark, we're not going to have time to do that. But
okay. All right.
Thank you. If anybody wants to reach out to Mark, his contact was there. Apologies, we got to keep it moving. Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Norman. Mark, thank you so very much. Remember, there's going to be an opportunity in the future for you to show this full platform.
Fantastic.
Thank you so very much. We're going to now hear from Kristen Rain, the Outreach Manager for Commonwealth Corporation, and we heard John Killam with Mass MEP Mission Commonwealth Corporation as one of its resources. Kristen?
Thank you, Nadine. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see. Here it is. Pardon me for 1 second, please. Can you all see this?
No, you want me to do it, Kristen?
Sure. Let me just try one more time. Let's see. Let me just try one more time, Norm. I know we have to keep moving, but. Can you see that?
Boom, there it is. Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Go to show slides, you'll get the, yeah, there you go.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, let's keep it moving. All right, great. I'm Kristen Rain, and I'm here to tell you about a state program called the Workforce Training Fund. This program has been around for over 20 years, and still many businesses don't know about it. So I'm going to do a quick overview and remind you that just knowing that the Workforce Training Fund is here to help your competitive advantage. So a little bit of background. The mission of the Workforce Training Fund is to give employers the resources they need to invest in their workforce and maintain the economic strength of the businesses in Massachusetts. It's a win for employers as training helps strengthen their business. It's a win for employees as they learn new skills often accompanied with increased wages. And it's a win for the state, as many times businesses that complete grants add jobs at a higher rate than the state average. And the program has real scale. Last year, we awarded over $20 million to over 700 businesses to train more than 16,000 workers. So how is it funded? It's funded by Massachusetts employers through a surcharge on unemployment insurance payments. So if you are a for-profit business in Massachusetts, you are contributing to the fund through your unemployment insurance. It's a payroll tax, basically. It equates to about $8.40 per employee as an annual contribution. And this trust collects between 18 and 22 million annually to be used exclusively for incumbent worker training grants. So with this grant, you can train your full-time workers, your part-time workers. They have to just be W-2 employees. They can't be contractors or temps. One of the conditions is that you have to pay your employees as they go through training. And Commonwealth Corporation, my employer, administers the Workforce Training Fund on behalf of the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. So manufacturing as a whole does get a large portion of the Workforce Training Fund spending. Oops, just bounced back. So the Express program and the General program are our two largest funds. And with the Express program, manufacturers are getting about 32% of that total spending. And with the General program, about 50% of the general grants are going to manufacturers. We just see more applications from manufacturers, and like I said, it's just a large sector of the awards that we give out. So there's 3 programs that a business can choose from that we'll talk about: the Express, Small Business Direct Access, and the General program. And this is just designed to be a quick overview, just enough to help you get dangerous. Okay, so the Express program is available for a business of any size, and it offers a 50% reimbursement for what we call off-the-shelf training. So you choose your course from a directory of courses on our website. And we reimburse up to $3,000 per person per course, and a company can keep going back as needs arise, just not to exceed $30,000 in a given year. So some of the topics you can use the Express program for include things like sales and customer service. You know, every interaction with someone from your organization is an opportunity to win or lose a customer. Management, supervisory skills, cybersecurity, network administration. You know, with a lot of people working from home now, it's never been more important to keep your information and your customer information safe. Quality assurance, as we talked about, there's a lot of businesses in Massachusetts that are part of a supply chain, so might need these ISO or quality assurance certifications. And the Express is a great way to get that training. Software training, Microsoft, Adobe, QuickBooks, what have you. And then training that can lead to a professional certification. So things like IPC certification, project management, or SHRM, for example. The second program that we offer is called the Small Business Direct Access Program. Now, this is available for small businesses only. And with this grant, the 23 training providers have been awarded grants to offer businesses seats at no charge. These 23 training providers have been awarded grants because of their demonstrated track record in their particular subject area of expertise. So examples of training available through the Small Business Direct Access include process improvement. We fund a lot of process improvement with the Workforce Training Fund. For example, you might want to train your production manager or operations manager on process improvement or lean. You can send them to a one-day lean boot camp or a 40-hour process improvement training, for example. Supervisory leadership training continues to be an in-demand topic for us. You might, want to promote your best machine operator to a leadership position, and giving them the training that they need to motivate teams, delegate, manage conflict will help them be successful in their new role. Computer skills, interpersonal and soft skills, decision-making, presentation skills, professional skills, things like blueprint reading, CNC machining, and ESOL, which continues to be a priority for the Workforce Training Fund. We hear from a lot of employers that say that they want to promote from within, but sometimes English learning skills are a challenge. And so ESOL can help a business to help promote from within, reduce errors, improve communication, etc. So this is a couple of courses that have been added since COVID has hit us. Some of these are actually offered by Mass MEP. So things like business continuity and contingency planning, navigating a pandemic, and then managing a virtual workplace. So with the Small Business Direct Access Program, as I mentioned, there's a list of courses available on our website. They're free, so that really you just have to register your business and show that you're eligible, and you can access any of that training at no charge. The third program is the general program. I think John had mentioned that we have a program that takes a couple of months basically to apply. He's probably referring to this one. It's our largest program by far. It's what most people think of when they think of the Workforce Training Fund. So a business of any size can receive grants of up to $250,000 to deliver custom training to their incumbent employees. It really puts the business in the driver's seat to pull together the training providers that they'd like to use topics in order to execute a training that can last up to 2 years. So with the general program, companies must match grant funds dollar for dollar with training related expenses. Now that's not an out-of-pocket cost. Because you're paying your employees as they go through training, those wages and benefits count towards that one-to-one match and almost always are enough to meet that one-to-one match requirement. A policy change we've made in May is that training courses that include ESOL do not need to meet that one-to-one match. Sometimes employers that want to train their employees in ESOL either have smaller class sizes or maybe the wage is lower, so they have trouble meeting that match. We want to remove that barrier to make it easier for businesses to offer English classes to their employees. And with the general program, as I mentioned, training can last up to 2 years. One of the advantages is there's no deadline. You can submit your application at any time. We review grants every month and we award grants every month. So generally, once you apply for a general program, you can hear back within 60 days on whether or not your grant has been awarded. And I will say that most applications are awarded the first time out, as long as we understand the business challenge or opportunity that you're trying to meet with training, that the training is logically related to helping you meet that challenge, and then that you've provided a couple of key performance indicators or measures on how you're going to measure success by the end of the program so that you know you've been successful. So I want to share a quick case study with you. The company called Analog Devices. It's a multinational semiconductor company based in Norwood. They design and manufacture here in Massachusetts a broad portfolio of high performance integrated circuits used in electronic equipment. So they've expanded their capabilities to serve the industries of self-driving cars, 5G communication, and the Internet of Things. Over the past couple of years, they've gone through a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and that rapid growth brought together a diversity of talent. So they needed to develop a common language and best practices on their scientific problem-solving methodologies. They also wanted to eliminate inefficiencies in manufacturing waste, which they have a couple of plants here in Massachusetts. So their training included process improvement, advanced problem solving, root cause analysis, idea systems, and train the trainer, so that when the grant had ended, they had that in-house capability in order to train new employees. At the end of their training, they'd added 122 jobs in the state. They were able to reduce their production waste by $1.7 million. And they increased production threefold at their Chelmsford facility, which focuses on aerospace and defense products. I want to share a quote from the engineering manager. Training on advanced problem-solving methodologies significantly expanded our employees' engagement on continuous improvement. We saw a greater sense of empowerment and more capacity to innovate by our teams. These are critical areas, especially in today's rapidly changing business environment. And then next, I just wanted to share with you a couple of examples. Let me just grab my notes here on, let's see, companies that have been awarded grants over the past couple of years. Asahi America, based up in Haverhill, was awarded $170,000 to train on lean manufacturing, including total productive maintenance to learn how to do fixes on machines, supervisory skills, and operations, so production planning, supply chain management, etc. At Piantadosi, you may be familiar with this delicious bread. They were awarded $250,000 to focus on leadership development. I think they're in their 4th generation of ownership, so they needed to really hone those leadership skills. Sorry, my advance is a little over anxious. They also did ESOL for their employees. Zildjian is a manufacturer in the world. It's actually being run by the family's 14th generation. They were awarded $70,000 to focus on lean to increase productivity and improve their on-time delivery. Glad Herring Shipbuilding, in Fall River was awarded $186,000 to train in leadership, communication, team building, and technical skills. And Jillian's, who makes wheat and gluten-free products for supermarkets and restaurants, was awarded money to do food safety, process improvement, and ESOL. Sorry, my slides kind of skipped ahead quickly there, but I guess in time that's good. So here's my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions that someone might have about applying for a grant either now or later. My email is krain@comcorp.org. Thank you.
Kristen, thank you so very much for being a part of this webinar this morning. We'll look forward to hearing more from you later when we schedule a full-blown webinar with you. In the interest of time, we are going to next hear from Stanley Grip, who is a member of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, who's going to talk more to you about procurement and government contracting. Stanley?
Thanks, Nadine, and thanks, Norman. We appreciate you hosting this. Norman, if I can get my first slide, please.
I got you.
Thanks. The takeaway, given we're going to move through this fairly quickly, as I say in all these presentations, as far as PTAC goes, you can easily reach any of us by utilizing the web link that's provided in this initial slide, and I'll provide it again at the end of the presentation. We look forward to hearing from anybody with any questions that this presentation may raise, and we invite you to give us a call. Next slide, please. With reference to PTAC, I think many of you have heard of us. We are the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and our mission is to provide assistance to qualified Massachusetts-based firms that are interested in doing business with the government. The takeaway on this slide is that focus is not exclusively federal, although primarily, but we do include state and local government buying authorities in our target array and field of view. Next slide, please. A little bit of history here. I won't go through these bullets, especially given the time crunch. Suffice it to say that we've been around for a while, that we're represented throughout the United States. Here in Massachusetts, we're extremely well represented. And most importantly, the services that we provide in conjunction with what you hear about in this presentation or in anything I'm about to say are free and confidential. Essentially, those services are provided as a result of our relationship to Defense Logistics Agency and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Next slide, please. Some client prerequisites for those who are considering utilizing us as a service provider. They're pretty straightforward. You need to have a place of business here in Massachusetts. Although it's no longer a requirement to be in business for 2 or more years, it certainly is helpful. Getting to know federal business can be a bit challenging, and a little bit of experience under your belt goes a very long way. Needless to say, you'll need to have internet access, the potential to sell to the government, and there's a lot of paperwork involved. I'll just review with this slide one more time that PTAC, again, is funded by the Defense Logistics Agency and the Commonwealth, and that these requirements, once they're met, means that the service we provide is provided entirely free of charge and confidentially. Next slide, please. Some examples of the government business sources to which we can find or help you find potential opportunities are listed on this slide. Basically, it's the entire Department of Defense and the entire Federal Service Register. If there are opportunities in the federal government out there, we can help you find those. Next slide, please. With reference to support for manufacturers in particular with regards to this meeting, many of you are no doubt aware of the System for Award Management. It is the procurement system for the federal government. It's extremely important in relationship to PTAC. We can help you get set up in SAM if you are not already set up in SAM, and we can help you to resolve problems if you are experiencing problems. A key part of SAM, particularly in terms of today's presentation, is SBA's Dynamic Small Business Search Database, which is embedded in SAM. Most contracting officers and buyers are, since last November, starting to utilize SAM as a go-to database for first-tier vendor reviews as well as due diligence reviews. So it's extremely important that the DSBS modules, for those of you who are already in SAM, it's extremely important if you haven't populated DSBS with a good characterization of your company to go back and do that, and we can help you do that if you haven't. Next slide, please. We can provide contracting assistance for 8A programs, basically anything in the Federal Register. As far as matchmaking, marketing capability statements and matchmaker events, as many of you already know, it's extremely important to have a marketing capability statement prepared for contracting officers and buyers. And that's especially important in the venue of matchmaker events. Matchmaker events since the onset of COVID have taken a bit of a setback, but we're very hopeful we'll get these things started again. The matchmaker events are very straightforward. Essentially, it's an opportunity for you to visit with federal agencies and in many cases prime contractors who might be useful customers for you, And we will continue to provide information on those as they develop on our PTAC website. Next slide, please. We can provide RFQ and RFP assistance. I don't want to overstate this. We're not in a position to do your homework for you, but when you run into a roadblock that we can assist with, we're very happy to do that. We can likewise help with pre and post-award contracting issues. We can assist insofar as we are able with the federal acquisition regulations and defense federal acquisition regulations. If you have any questions pursuing those, you know how seriously they can be nested in requests for proposal and requests for quotation. We'd be happy indeed to provide assistance. Next slide, please. In terms of specific target acquisition, many of you are aware of the General Services Administration, the GSA. GSA is a unique entity. We can provide assistance in getting you introduced to GSA and identifying potential opportunities there. Insofar as we can do that, we'd welcome hearing from you, and that we would welcome the opportunity to point you in the right direction as to opportunities within the GSA laundry list and shopping schedules. Many of you are likewise aware that the state has its own procurement system called Combis. We can likewise help with that. Most importantly, and I think what most of our clients find to be the highest value added, is BidMatch. BidMatch is an extremely powerful Boolean search engine, again, provided free of charge to our clients. We would essentially ask you, once you become our client, to provide us with a set of keywords and key phrases that accurately characterize your company, that accurately characterize the kinds of sales targets you're looking for and opportunity targets you're looking for. We will take those keywords and key phrases, put them into that search engine. The search engine will look at the entire Federal Register, most state registers, and many local government registers at all. And when they match to opportunities, they will generate an email with links to those RFPs and RFQs directly to you. You're under no obligation to respond to that, but many of our clients find that that is a useful source of low-hanging fruit. Next slide, please. Again, a brief overview of BidMatch here. I won't go through each of these bullets, but again, the keyword and key phrase list that you construct with us is the key to fine-tuning a profile that gets you opportunities, hopefully on a very recurring, if not daily basis. Next slide, please. In terms, again, of target acquisition, you won't be surprised to hear that Defense Logistics Agency is particularly key. Through the DLA Internet Bid Board system, opportunities are easily visible as queued up and identified through the BidMatch system. DLA's buying power, DLA's market for both new and built-to-print opportunities is outstanding, especially for the manufacturing companies among you and the machine shops among you. Probably most key in the DLA inventory is DLA Aviation in Richmond, Virginia, and Land and Maritime in Columbus, Ohio. And insofar as these sorts of build-to-print and build opportunities might be of interest to you, we look forward to telling you more about that. Next slide, please. Just quickly, one of the most important, I won't say most important, but one of the most interesting in terms of built-to-print opportunities, when DLA identifies specific parts, such as the rotor you see here or the cable assembly, in which they are in a position where they cannot find a supplier, they will put a notice out, including drawing packages, hopefully, generally, and photographs to see if they can find suppliers. And they will look for those who want to become approved as suppliers for those parts. We can help you and steer you toward those opportunities if that is likewise of interest. Next slide, please. This is my concluding slide. Wanted to run briefly through as I know we're running behind time. My name and contact number are here. We are regionally organized, so if you use the website, you will probably be much more quickly able to identify the specific PTAC counselor who's been assigned within your regional location. But we welcome hearing from you in any way, shape, or form. One final note I'd like to add, especially given circumstances nowadays, is the importance of cybersecurity. For those of you who are considering or are already dealing with federal business, cybersecurity is becoming increasingly important, and this is another area which we can help with. Norm, that's it for me. Thank you again for allowing us to participate.
Stan, thank you so very much. PTAC, Massachusetts PTAC, should become your new BFF, best friend forever. Honestly and truly, they can help you at the state, the city, state, and federal level. And Stan also said free, so that's really important. Now we are going to hear from Joe Raycroft, who is the SBA Office of International Trade Export Finance Manager for New England, I believe. And so we are now going to hear from Joe about exporting.
Great, thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Joe, thanks.
Yes, we can.
Excellent, I'm getting good at this. Well, thank you very much, and a happy Manufacturing Month. Again, my name is Joe Raycroft. I'm the Export Finance Manager for the SBA in the New England region. And I started my role in July, so I've been with the SBA for a short time, but I'm coming up to speed pretty quickly. I come from a background of commercial lending. I've got more than 20 years of experience in the lending field. And I cover from my Hartford office, I cover the 6 New England states. So in my role as an export finance manager, I promote the export financing programs of the SBA to both lenders and to exporters throughout the region. And just trying to highlight how important these programs are to small companies and helping them to expand and diversify their sales overseas. So today, I'm just going to give you an overview, lots of resource contacts for small businesses. The first slide here, these are the things I'm going to cover. Number 3 is really my lane, which talks about the financing part of it, but I think it's really important that I talk a little bit about some of the other resource partners that are out there that can be extremely valuable to companies that are looking to get more into exporting. So in the business intelligence, you can see there's a link here to the SBDCs, but there's lots of different local advisors that the SBA is connected to, whether it be a small business development center or women's business development center. Lots of resources, U.S. Commerce Department, SCORE, that can assist companies with business planning, counseling, etc. The second one I'll talk about is grants to help companies reach international buyers. And to me, this is the golden nugget of the presentation. Even though I'm not directly involved in this, this is a really good program for companies that are either existing exporters or looking to get into exporting. It's grant money to support your export efforts. And then 3, the financing of your international sales. I'll talk about the 3 programs that SBA offers. And,
Joe, I just want to pause. Does everybody see the slides? Eli, do you see it now?
Yes, this happened the other
Oh.
day. You want to click on the slides at the bottom. This happened during the ethics training we had the other day when I couldn't see them. So if you see the slides at the bottom, click on that and the slides will pop up. Did that work?
I still see the PTAC slides.
Huh.
Okay, let me control Joe and just say next slide here.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go to the, yep, perfect. Okay, so those are the three things we're going to talk about. You can go to the next slide. I got 10 slides, so I figured a minute a slide, so I'll keep it moving.
Yeah, thanks.
So business intelligence, again, we talked about, if you've got an issue as an exporter, you need to try to resolve some issue. There's a 800 number here. There's an email address. You can reach out to the SBA directly in DC. There's trade experts there. If you've got trade policy questions or you're trying to figure out tariffs or the best way to take advantage of the new US-Mexican-Canada agreement, great resource for that. Highly encourage it. Next slide. So the next slide is, this is the golden nugget I was talking about. These are the STEP grants, state trade expansion programs. And again, I highly encourage you to reach out. In Massachusetts, you can see, go to mass.gov and type in STEP grants and you'll get the information for that. But these are reimbursable, grants up to, every state's a little bit different, but anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000. And provided that you're using the money for eligible expenses, participation in virtual trade shows or trade missions, you're looking to identify overseas customers using the Commerce Department programs, or you're doing translations of marketing materials, all these things are eligible, and you could be reimbursed for the cost of those. So just a great way to support my financing part of it, where there's some free grant money involved, and then that can be supported with the financing. Next slide, please. So before I get into the financing, just quickly, what is an export? Obviously goods and services, but I just want to emphasize services can be a number of things. Drilling services, consultants that provide services to overseas companies, architects, other professional service providers, construction management, engineering services. These are all eligible for the 3 export loan programs. Next slide. And then we've got indirect exports, which is typically something that's related to supply chain companies. So you manufacturers out there that are selling to OEMs that are ultimately exporting a lot of the production overseas, you can qualify for the export finance programs through those indirect exports. So it just means that you're selling to a customer within the supply chain, and ultimately a large portion of your production is being exported by the larger OEMs. So to take advantage of this, the supply chain solutions that are provided under the export financing programs help companies to, provide extended payment terms to their larger customers. It helps finance that working capital and inventory and can produce better margins as well. For an indirect export, it does require some certification, which could be as simple as a letter from one of your supply chain companies indicating that certain percentage of their production is exported. Next slide. So the next few slides, we're going to talk about the export financing. But first, I just wanted to, talk a little bit about the SBA and its role. It's, SBA is not a direct lender, but we partner with the banks, and we provide guarantees to the banks on those loans made to small businesses. Having an SBA export guarantee helps a small business overcome certain financing challenges. And I've got a few listed here that could be, reduced buyer credit, insurance policy coverage, reduction in lines of credit, supply chain issues with extended payment terms that OEMs are requiring. Next slide. So here, these are the 3 export finance programs. And what's really nice about this package of programs is it really covers the international sales cycle from, the necessary growth to purchase equipment, to be able to react to the increase in demand, to the export working capital that's necessary to process orders. The first program, Export Express, is kind of the simplest and smallest. You can obtain a loan up to $500,000, and this can be used for any export-related expense. It could be structured as a line of credit for working capital purposes, or it could be structured as a term loan for the purchase of equipment or real estate or those types of things. Export working capital, this is a loan that's typically made to a more experienced type of exporter. Its maximum loan is up to $5 million, and it's specific financing, specific short-term financing for international and supply chain orders. In the international trade loan, this is the one that supports the growth. So if you've got an expanding export market, you need additional production capacity, you need to buy equipment, maybe you're looking at a business acquisition, those types of things would qualify for the international trade loan. And those terms can be anywhere from 10 years up to 25 years if it's associated with real estate. Next slide. So these are just some examples. We talked about some of these. So rather than requiring advanced payments from customers, you can be more competitive and provide overseas businesses with terms because you have a line of credit to support that. Proactive marketing expenses can be made using an Export Express line of credit. Again, growth can be financed with international trade loan, using that to purchase machinery and equipment or other fixed assets. And then export working capital is a great program for financing those international purchase orders, or if there's a need for the issuance of a standby letter of credit for an advanced payment guarantee or performance guarantee. That's a great program for that. Next slide. And this is probably my favorite. With the international trade loan, it does require that the company have an export business plan. And here's just a couple of questions I put together. I think if you went through each of these and responded to them, you're probably more than 50% of the way there of completing an your export business plan. But I like to tell companies, your lender is your trusted partner, and you really need to take advantage of that relationship and be honest and upfront and transparent about the challenges and the opportunities of the business, because when they go to loan committee to try to get your loan approved, they need to have all the facts. They need to be prepared, and as you know, no bank likes surprises. So put some effort into this to prepare your financing package and communicate with your lender. Next slide. I think so. That does it for me. If any questions, you can put them into the chat, or my contact information is here in the presentation, which I did attach to the chat. So
all right,
I'm available.
Thanks, Ray. I just want a public service announcement. Joseph Iannone wants to do some networking. So if anybody wants to network after this event, I'll keep the event room open so you can network, or just type your LinkedIn or your contact company website, whatever, in the chat box. The chat box can be accessed if in the app there's a conversation icon top right if you want to do that. Okay, Nadine?
Thank you, Norman. Joe, thanks a bunch. We really appreciate that. We are really behind 11:35, and we are going to bring on USDA and Korea. We still have Eli Spayu with Paycheck Protection. We are losing some of our attendees. And could we get a show of hands that want us to continue with the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, or that we will set up another webinar specifically for Paycheck Protection? In the meantime, we are going to hear from Miss Ann Correa with the United States Department of Agriculture.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Nadine. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
I'm going to do it. I got you, Ann.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No worries. You're good. Can you see your slides?
Yes, I can. Got it. Okay, so good morning, and thank you to the SBA folks for putting this together. My name is Ann Correa, and I am the director at USDA Rural Development Office for South Coast area in Massachusetts, as well as the state of Rhode Island. Rural development is a division of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it's our mission to really provide economic development and opportunities specifically in rural areas. While most people don't think about the Department of Agriculture being able to assist their for-profit businesses, we do have several programs that are focused for businesses, and one in particular that I will talk about today. Next slide, please. Today, I'll tell you a little bit about the Business and Industry Loan Guarantee Program. First, what does the program do? This program offers loan guarantees to lenders for loans to rural businesses. So very similar to some of those programs that SBA also offers. How can this program help their business? The program can help the business by obtaining a loan from a bank that maybe the bank normally wouldn't think that the business would qualify for. So it kind of acts as a credit enhancement, or it adjusts some type of risk layering that that particular business may have. How do these programs help the lender? Well, the guarantee acts as a credit enhancement to allow the lenders to continue lending and allows them to make additional loans within their communities. So this in turn helps rural development because it provides for community and economic impact by providing job opportunities and thereby stimulating the economy, which helps USDA meet its goals and its mission. Next slide, please. So what does the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development consider a rural area? This is generally our first question that is asked. And by definition, it is any area that is not either within or contiguous to a town or a city with a population of less than 50,000. I will warn you that the contiguous part gets a little bit tricky within the definition. So I would certainly advise anyone to use our online mapping system, which is at our website, and you can actually put in the direct address of the project. It doesn't necessarily matter where the headquarters is located, but particularly the project has to be considered in a rural area. So basically by looking at the map here, you can see that as you get closer to any city area, then you are more likely not to be eligible. It doesn't really show up in the PowerPoint very well, but on the website, the kind of yellow area would be ineligible and everything else would be eligible. So if you look at Boston in particular, you can see that Boston would be ineligible, and then kind of the surrounding towns of Boston would also be ineligible. Next slide. So who is eligible to use the program? Just about any for-profit business entity or individual that would be engaged in a business would be eligible to use the program. We can also make loans to cooperative organizations, nonprofits, tribal organizations, and public bodies. There is no particular threshold income in order to qualify under this program, which I think might be a little bit different than what SBA has for small business qualifications. And next slide. What types of projects are eligible? Any type of real estate purchase, business expansions, improvements to their businesses, machinery, equipment. We can do debt refinancing, and business acquisition as well would all be eligible under this program. Next slide. So how does the program work? The business will essentially find a bank that's interested in the project. They would apply to the bank. They would negotiate rates and terms with the lender. And then if the lender feels that they need that credit enhancement in order to make the deal work, they then would apply to USDA. So in this situation or this program, the bank becomes our applicant. So we are not a direct lender, but again, work similar to SBA and some of their programs. USDA will then review the application to ensure that it meets all of our minimum requirements. And then if so, the USDA would be able to guarantee a part of the loan, and then that bank will service your loan, not USDA. So what types of banks are eligible to use the program? All regulated banking entities are eligible. Even some non-regulated banks can also use the program, but they must go through a process in order to become approved by USDA. But likely the bank that you already use for regular business operations or transaction would be able to utilize our program. As with all loans, there are fees in order to use the program. There's a one-time guarantee fee that's usually paid upfront at closing, and this fee is generally passed on to the borrower at 3%. And then there's an annual renewal fee of about 0.5%, essentially to keep that guarantee each year. Oftentimes, the annual renewal fee is built right into the interest rate. Lenders may also charge their own origination fees. And of course, we do have equity requirements, as with most loans, generally speaking, 10% equity requirement for existing businesses. And there's a 20% equity requirement for new or startup projects. The loan will have to show some form of collateral and security. At USDA under this program, our maximum loan amount is $25 million, but generally speaking, within our area, we are seeing loans in the $1 to $3 million range. Any loan that is in excess of $5 million would have additional requirements and would require a second level review at our national level versus the state level. And we do accept applications all year round, and generally we're funding those at least once a month. Next slide, please. So how to get started? The first thing really is to ensure and make sure that your project is located in an eligible rural area. And then you would reach out to your bank. If you have general questions about the program, my information is here, and I apologize, which is why I wanted to share my screen. I actually put the wrong email address there. So when I send out the slides, I'll make sure that I include the correct email address. It's actually ann.correa@usda.gov. Oops, put my personal email address there. So I know. And then my phone number is there for all general questions. Also, Jennifer Shero, who works out of our Hadley office, she is our business and community programs loan specialist. So if there are kind of specific questions in regards to application requirements or lender requirements, they can certainly reach out to Jennifer Shero as well. And we have a lot more information available on our website at www.rd.gov. Okay, I tried to make that short and sweet.
Thank you. That was great. Perfect.
And thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We will be back in touch with you. Eli, I see that you are there and all ready to go. So we're going to now hear from Eli Spayu, the lead lender relations specialist here at SBA, my colleague and friend.
Nadine, thank you very much. Great program so far, and I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I am sharing my screen, so I hope everybody can see the slides. Norm, can you confirm?
Yeah. So you got it, right? You're going to do, okay.
Yep. Do you see the slides? I'm on the first slide. Okay, wonderful. So this, the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, as you all know it, it was fast and furious in the beginning days. And again, the forgiveness requests are coming in, the decisions are coming to the SBA. And it is the goal of the CARES Act for all of this PPP loans to be forgiven. So a few basics here. First and foremost, for all of you on the line, the agency, the Treasury, the Congress, they intended for these loans to be fully forgiven. Okay, so as long as you have spent the funds, for eligible payroll costs, business, rent payments, mortgage interest, utility payments, which manufacturers, do have a considerable amount of utilities, and obviously payroll being, the largest expense for any business. Though that amount should all be forgiven, capped by the original PPP loan amount. So many of you know that forgiveness, despite what the actual expenses are with the extension of the covered period, cannot exceed the original PPP loan amount. But I'm going to focus today on a couple of hot topics and perhaps provide you all with some helpful hints here. So a couple of considerations to keep in mind, and everything I'm going to be talking about here today comes in a three-pronged approach. So first and foremost, the one big requirement loan amount to be fully forgiven is that at least 60% of the funds must go towards payroll costs. That is not, however, a hard cliff, okay, but there will be a reduction in forgiveness amount if 60% of the funds are not used for payroll costs. Okay, another a potential reduction that you should all be aware of is the salary and wage reduction by more than 25%. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about that a little further in one of the next slides. Another reduction that's possible here is any reductions in the average full-time equivalent employees. Okay, and I've got another slide on that. But I don't want to focus on the reductions as much as I want to focus on the exemptions to the reductions. Okay, so the Flexibility Act did make some very positive changes to the program, and those are things that I want to share with you all. Those are things you all need to be aware of. So first and foremost, let's stick with the first, potential reduction. So payroll costs, right, have to represent 60% of the forgiven amount, 60% or more, that is. And they have to be incurred or paid during the covered period, okay? They could be incurred before the covered period, but paid during the covered period and still be eligible, and incurred during the covered period, okay, or alternative covered period here, but paid on or before the next payroll date, okay, after the end of the covered period. So very important to keep that in mind. And that's about it for payroll costs, okay? So, one of the questions we get here at the district office from lenders and borrowers is, may a borrower submit for forgiveness before the end of the covered period? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Okay, if the borrower has used all of the loan proceeds in accordance with the CARES Act, they should request forgiveness. Our portal is open. Lenders, the majority of the lenders are registered with our portal, and lenders are getting those decisions paid. So they're already getting funds from the SBA starting in early October. Now, one caveat on this slide that I do want everyone to keep in mind. So if the annual salary or hourly wage reduction applies to you or your business, okay, and you're using a covered period of less than the full 24 weeks, let's say, you have to annualize and prorate the reduction for the full covered period of 24 weeks, okay, 8 or 24 weeks, whichever one you're using. So that's something that most small businesses, do not realize that is applicable, but that's directly from the CARES Act. Forgiveness. How do I apply for forgiveness? Many of you perhaps have already filled out an application. Excuse me. We've got 3 ways to apply for forgiveness. First and foremost, the standard forgiveness application, Form 3508. That does require worksheet A and a calculation sheet for payroll expenses. In addition to that, we have an easy application, Form 3508 EZ, and the latest edition is the simple application, Form 3508S. Okay, instructions and definitions are on our website. I've got links on this slide here, and obviously everyone who logged into today's webinar is going to be receiving a copy of this presentation. But let's tackle another one of those reductions. Okay, so I just want to elaborate on this a little bit. Okay, and again, maintaining employees' salaries and hourly wages, very important, requirement from the CARES Act. And here there will be a reduction, okay, by the dollar amount of the wage reductions in excess of 25%, okay, from the salaries and wages earned between, January 1st and March 31st of 2020. So the way this comparison works, again, is by comparing the salary and wage levels between February 15th and April 26th of 2020 to what the payroll, hourly salary and hourly wages looked like on February 15th, pre-pandemic. Okay. Now, again, I do want to focus here on the exemptions. So a safe harbor is in place for employee hourly and salary wages, hourly wages and salary, I'm sorry. So again, if that decrease in hourly wages or salary is restored by the earlier of December 31st or the date of the application submitted, okay, the safe harbor is met. So for all of you out there, keep that in mind. The safe harbor does provide for for the small business to restore those hourly wages and salary levels to what they were on February 15th of 2020, and not have to include this reduction on your calculations. And also keep in mind the calculation is performed on a per employee basis, not not in basis. Okay, so that's the only safe harbor for wage and salary reductions. Now, another big issue here is the FTE requirement. So borrowers, employers have to maintain FTEs. And here we've got a new term, the reference period. So the comparison is done between the covered period and the reference period. Now, the reference period could be one of the three options here on this slide. So it could be February 15th of 2019 through June 30th of 2019. The first 2 months of 2020, and for seasonal businesses, a bit more flexibility is provided. Okay. Now, this reduction, okay, it's a proportional reduction as a percentage of the decrease in full-time equivalent employees. Now, we have, however, many exemptions. So we have FTE reduction exemptions and 2 safe harbors. So on the next slide here, and as I said, this presentation is focused on these exemptions that everyone needs to know. So this all come from the Flexibility Act, and first and foremost, the exemptions would include any positions for which the borrower, right, has made a good faith written offer to rehire the individuals that were employees as of February 15th. Okay, and this is very important. Okay, so they were unable to hire similarly qualified individuals, right, for those unfilled positions on or before the safe harbor date of December 31st of 2020. So keep that in mind. There's still time. To fill those positions if that applies to you. Okay, or to document that you're unable to fill those positions. Okay, another exemption here is positions for which the borrower and employer, right, made a good faith written offer to restore any reductions in hours at the same salary and wage levels. Okay, but the employee rejected that offer. So keep that in mind. You have to document it, but that's another exemption to the FTE requirement. And lastly, in course of business, you're going to have, employees who are either resigning, retiring, requesting a reduction in hours, or were fired for cause. So document your file as best you can. That is another exemption, okay, applicable to all borrowers on the PPP program. So the 2 safe harbors. So real quick here, there's 2 safe harbors in place. And this is, again, from the Flexibility Act back in June 5th that was passed into law. So borrowers are exempt from the reductions if the borrower in good faith is able to document that they were unable to operate from February 15th, right, pre-pandemic, to the end of the covered period at the same level of business activity due to compliance with requirements established by the, HHS, the CDC, or OSHA. So that's one safe harbor. And the second safe harbor here is an exemption for reductions in loan forgiveness based on a reduction, right, on those FTE employees. If one of two, or actually both have to be met, both criteria have to be met here. So a borrower reduced the FTE employee levels from February 15th through April 26th of 2020, but then restored those FTE levels, right, by the safe harbor date of December 31st. Okay, so a question we get often here at the district office is who can use Form 3508EZ. So the standard 3508 form does have extra calculations. You have to account for pretty much, all of those reductions. Form 3508EZ, on the other hand, is available for all self-employed individuals, sole proprietors, independent contractors with no employees at the time of the PPP loan application. Okay. In addition, it is also available for any other type of business that did not reduce annual salary or wage levels, okay, by more than 25%, and right did not reduce the number of employees. So that's basically for the from January 1st through the end of the covered period. Now, if you apply before the end of the covered period, right, that requirement has to be for the end of the covered period. So keep that in mind. In addition, another category that could qualify for using loan forgiveness application Form 3508EZ is those borrowers that did not reduce salary and wage levels, right, by more than 25%, and were unable to operate during the covered period at the same level of business activity as pre-pandemic due to the compliance with, with the Health and Human Services, CDC, the OSHA, any restrictions that were issued from March 1st to the end of this calendar year. All right, so, lastly, we have the simple Form 3508S. This was, a much anticipated move, that the agency, SBA, and the Treasury put in place in absence of a public law that could have granted additional forgiveness or flexibility to small businesses. But the requirement here is that despite the type of business entity, if your PPP loan is for $50,000 or less, then you were eligible. You could apply using, Form 3508S. And the big benefit here is that those borrowers that use Form 3508S, the simplified version of the loan forgiveness application, are exempt from any of the reductions in loan, in FTEs or salaries and wage levels. Okay, so major benefit here. As far as a process and timeline, one thing that I do want to point out here is that borrowers have up to 10 months from the end of the covered period, okay, to submit their loan forgiveness application. So there is no real rush, okay, to submit your loan forgiveness application. However, the portal is open and we are, we're processing this loan forgiveness application. So if you qualify for either the easy form, the simple form, you've met all the requirements and you're eligible to file the standard 3508, highly recommend that you do so, but no real rush. There is a deferment of up to 10 months from the end of the covered period here. Now, your forgiveness applications can only be submitted to the lender of record. So you have to go back to the lender that extended the PPP loan to you, and they have 60 days from receipt of a complete application to review the documentation submitted, the application itself, and render a decision to the SBA. In turn, we've got up to 90 days, okay, to pay that lender of record on this PPP loan amount. So as far as documentation requirements, this is something that's applicable pretty much across the board. So because it's a requirement of the CARES Act, okay, So for payroll, you need proof of payment, non-payroll proof of the obligation and proof of payment during the covered period. And then, 3508, you definitely need to submit, Schedule A. That's the only added requirement there. Documentation is pretty much the same across the board. And for the easy form, you do need to, it's an extra certification that you need to provide information on FTEs. With that said, I believe we're at the end of the time I've got allowed, and definitely appreciate the opportunity here, and hope we provided some valuable information to you all. Nadine, back to you.
Eli, thank you so very much, because there are so many to drop off when we start our informational sessions in the next couple of weeks or so. Maybe we should start with you, Eli. Really appreciate you giving this full presentation here 30 minutes after this should have ended. So Bob, Wendell, do any of you all have any closing remarks? I really thank all of our stakeholders and attendees who were a part of this conversation and this informational session this morning.
Nothing specific, Nadine, but thank you, everyone. Very informative. I think most of the people stayed on almost the entire time, I think, because there was great content. Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, Wendell. Bob, Diane, Norman?
No, great job, everyone, and thank you to all the speakers. Great information. So we'll continue with this series and continue to get information to all of you so that you can, the rules, the different resources. But again, thank you for sticking with us through the program, and appreciate all the speakers spending so much time with us, and to all the manufacturing businesses that joined today. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Everybody have a great day. We will keep you posted on future programs. Have a wonderful day and stay warm.
Kudos to Norman.